Good morning. This is the second installment of our e-learning for next year's show. So what we're going to do is first off, let me just hope that everything went okay with you on Easter. Hope you had a nice Easter. Hopefully, a lot of you are getting your power back on. I know there were some power outages and some trees down and some things like that. So hopefully everybody's okay. Um, Make sure that you are checking Google Classroom daily. We're trying to spread things out to where you're not getting more than one or two things a day, but make sure that you are checking it. Your first pass off is due on Saturday. It is the first 17-20 measures of another brick in the wall. So make sure we're trying to keep them short so that the file size is staying small. So make sure that you're taking a look. If you have not watched the first e-learning video, you need to turn this off right now and go back to the first one before you start doing this one. Okay? All right, so what we're going to do, like we did last week, is I am going to use my sheet, this sheet here, okay? And what we will do is we will go through and go through these different parts. So again, you do not need to watch every single part. You just need to go to the part when I point to it. So you'll scroll through until you see your part, and then we'll talk about your individual parts. Okay? All right. Flutes. All right, so flutes. We looked at measures 1 to 17 last week. So what I would like to do is review just a little bit what we did last week and then start moving into some newer things. Okay, so hopefully you can either use this, you can screenshot this. The music is also on Google Classroom and you should be able to pull that up. Okay, all right, so what I'd like to do is if we can start right here. All right, you see it looks like a lot of notes, but just make sure that you're reading these rhythms very, very carefully. Okay, so in measure 16, the first note is on the and of 1, the second note is on the E of 2, then it goes to beat 3, and, okay? So what we're looking at in this measure is 1, and, 2, E, 3, 4, and. Okay? So in time we get 1, and, E, 3, and. All right, listen to that again. It's and, E, 3, and. All right? So then in the very next measure, measure 16, it changes just a little bit. But here's how I would think about it. If you took off this note, you will see that this rhythm and this rhythm are identical. Okay? So if you go and, E3, and, E2, and. Okay? So what you need to do is just make sure you're doing it twice. All right, so listen to this. And, E3, and, E2, and. Okay? So from there, what you have next is more or less just a run. Okay? So there's two things that I would see on this long run. One is we're going to look at the rhythm. Two is to notice how it's moving in these intervals. And also then to notice that when it starts looking really dense right here, it's actually just about 3 notes. Okay, you've got D, C sharp, and C, and you're actually just going back and forth between them. Okay, so I'm going to start right here and just count this rhythm. All right, so you get 1, 2, 3, 4 and a 1 and a 2E and a 3E and a 4 and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4. Okay, and that gets you to 23. Okay, so when you get to this section right here, I would just implore you, you get D, C sharp, 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 D. It's actually the same thing each time. Okay? All right, so let's go on and do just the very next section without going too far. I just want to get just this first little part right here, just for the rhythm. Okay, so at measure 23, you've got right now. Excuse me, I'm going to take out the ties right now, just so you can read them without the ties. So without the ties, measure 23 is 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4, 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4. Okay, so when I put the ties back in, I get 1 and a, 1 and a, 1 and a, 1 and a, and I'm sorry because I said 1 on each one. Obviously it's 1s and 3s. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is I'm going to play for you the recording, and we'll go along through it together. Okay? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to measure 17. And then what we'll do is we'll actually go back and go from the beginning all the way to 23 just to review what we did last time. Okay, so let's do that again. Make sure I'm in the right place. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't think I started in the right place. Four and a 1 and a 2E and a 3 and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3 and a 4. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning and put that together. One, two, three. Now, I'm not going to do the flute 2 part. So flute 2s, if you will hop back and make sure that you're looking at it, because the notes are actually 99% the same and the rhythms are all the same. Okay? So just go back and take a look. All right? All right, clarinets. We are looking at another brick in the wall again. What we're going to do is we're going to start right here at measure 16, and we're going to work our way down through measure 23. Okay? So here's the good news. The rhythms are actually a little bit easier as we're going through here. It's a lot of repeated notes. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. Let's take a look first at measure 16. So measure 16, you've got an 8th rest on beat 1, 16th rest on beat 2. You've got an 8th note on the E, and then a dotted 8th note. Okay? So what you have is 1 and 2 E, 3 yeah, I'm so sorry, I was reading that backwards. 3 4 and. Okay, so it's 1 and E, 3 and. All right, listen again. And E, 3 and. Okay? Then what happens here in this second measure is it's actually exactly the same minus this first beat. Okay? So you get E2 and. E2 and. All right, so when you put them together, you get and E3 and E3 and. Okay? Now, from there, you've got all these 16th notes. Okay? So let's start first with the rhythm. 4 and a 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Okay? Now, as you look at this right here and you start worrying about these higher notes, you start worrying about these accidentals, don't. If you look very carefully, what you've got is a B natural, a D sharp, and a D natural, and an E. Those are your only choices in there. Okay? So as you're going through, you've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, E. Okay? D with my third finger down, and the D sharp is the same as E flat. So it's the top of those 3 pinky fingers. So if you're looking at the clarinet this way, okay, you got those 3. Then you got these keys right here. Okay. You're looking at this top one. All right, so as you're going through, what you're going to be doing is you go D, D sharp, E, D sharp, D, and just moving it that way. Okay? All right, so we go through there, and then we get to 23. All right, now I'm going to count 23 one time without the ties. All right? 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4, 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4. Okay? So once I put the ties back in, I get 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and all right? So again, you've got some notes in there that you might not know in this first part. Okay? You've got a high C sharp. And what we'll do is we'll make sure that there are some fingering charts in Google Classroom if you're having any trouble with any of those kinds of things. Okay? Also remember through this whole section, all of your F's are sharp, so you got to use that middle finger on that top line. Okay? All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start the recording right around 17. and we'll go along with it, and then we'll go from the beginning all the way to here. Okay? Okay? So you heard this part here. This is not a breath. That 16th rest is not a breath. Make sure that you keep right on playing. Okay? Second at 23, you probably heard that you're almost like an echo. So when you're playing with the recording, don't try to do it with the brass. It's not quite with the brass. Okay, let's do that section again. 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Da di da, da di da, da di da, da di da. Okay, so make sure that you're following along with that. All right, let's go back to the beginning, and we'll go from the beginning to there. One, two, three. Two, three. Da di da, da di da, da di da, da di da. All right, so take a look at that. That'll be the next section, and then hopefully next week we'll be able to go from there to the end, and we can finish out this first song. All right, now clarinet 2. Your part is very similar, but let's just take a quick look. So you can go ahead and take a look at some of those notes. The big thing for y'all is clarinet 2. If you did not listen to the rhythms of the first one, go back and listen to the rhythms of the first clarinet part. The only thing different are the notes. Okay, so this rhythm is exactly the same. You're just playing an E instead of whatever the note was for the other part. Okay, this is all an octave down for the second clarinet part. So you're going between your E, first line E, D, and then the D sharp, which is the same as E flat. Okay, so if you're going between this, what I would do is use this one. This would be that little sliver, that little banana key. That is an E flat. So what you can do is, as you're going through, you can play E, put down your second finger and this little sliver key, and that'll give you the D sharp, which is the same as E flat. Then you pick it up, and then you can play D. Don't worry about using that lever down on the side. It's not fast enough. Okay, so that's what you do through here. And it's just those notes, okay? B, D sharp, D, E, D sharp, D. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading it backwards. E, D, D sharp, E, D, D sharp, E, D, D sharp, E, D, D sharp, E. Okay? Then when you get to here, you're looking at D, E, up that octave. All right, but the rhythm is exactly the same. Okay? All right, alto saxes. We are going to be looking at, again, another brick in the wall, and we're going to be starting right here about measure 17. I realize you start with some rest, so yours is going to be a little bit different than others. But our goal is to try to get from 17 to right around measure 29 or so. Okay? And then we'll take a look at the second half. All right? So, the biggest thing in here that I see, the first one, is you've got this 16th note run. Excuse me, the 16th note run that goes through the song. First thing, do not be thrown off by this. If you look at it very carefully, it's actually only 3 notes. It's a B natural, it's an A sharp, which is equal to B flat, and an A natural. Okay? So what I would do as you're going through that is just work on going in between those 3 notes before you try to take it up to speed. Okay? All right, so here's set 17. 1, 2, 17, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1, and a 2E, and a 3E, and a 4, and a 1E, and a 2E, and a 3E, and a 4. Okay? So the main thing through here, make sure that you're checking your key signature, F sharps and C sharps. So bump, 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 bump. Okay, so I would work on it to there. Bump, ba da 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 da. Then work on it from there. Da 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 dee da 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 da. And then try to put it together. Now that's very slow, but start slow. Do not just try to jump on with the recording and pick up bad habits. Okay? All right, so let's go down to measure 23. So measure 23, what I'm going to do is we're going to go from 23 to 29. So these rhythms, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count it once without the tie, just so you can see that the rhythm is not actually as hard as it looks. The tie is what it makes it sound a little different, okay? So it's 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4, 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4, 4 and a 1 and a 2, 3E and 4, 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4. Okay, so let's take a look at the one spot where it changes. The one spot where it changes is right there. Okay, so this whole time you've been going 8, 16, 8, 16, 8, 16, 8, 16. Here on beat 4 of this measure, you start with 2/16 into the 8. So you get 4E and 1 and a 2 and a 3. So twice here, the 16th notes get turned around. All right, so make sure that you're catching that. Okay, now with the ties. With the ties, it is 3, 4, 1 and a 3 and a 1 and a 3 and a 4E and a 3, 4E and. Okay, let me do just that part again. I fumbled through that just a little bit. Okay, 4E and a 3. Okay, 4E and a 3. Oh, I'm sorry, and a 2. But again, you just play at the right time. Don't worry about the number. Okay, 4E and a 2, 3E and. Okay, is what you're looking for right there. Okay, and then this part here is actually the same as it is here. All right, so this whole line. 1 and a 3 and a 1 and a 3 and a 4E and a 2, 3E and 1 and 3 and 1 and that's where we're going to stop right now. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start at 17, right before 17, and we're going to go from 17 down to about 30, and then we'll go back and look at the whole thing. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. 1, 2, 3. Da dee da, da dee da, da dee da, da dee da. All right, so we're going to do that section again. The big thing that I would caution you with is 23. When you start this, you are actually echoing the brass. You are not with the brass. So make sure you're counting very carefully in the recording and don't just jump on with them. Okay, let's listen to that much again. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1. Ba-be-da, ba-be-da, ba-be-da. Okay? So let's do this. We're going to go back to the beginning. Go back to the beginning. We're going to go from the beginning to there. Now listen, if you're trying to do this at this speed right away, you're doing this incorrectly. You need to start at the counting tempo, work through it, and then try to do it with the recording. Okay, beginning. Three, 4, 1. Bump-a-dum, 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 da-da-dum. Okay? All right, so as we look at that part in the second part, all right, seconds, your part is a little bit different, all right? So take a look seconds as we get to measure 17. Your part has a counter melody, okay? So you have, we're going to take out the ties. You'll have 2 and a 3 and 4, 2 and 3, a 4 and 1. Okay, that's without any ties. Listen to that again. 1, 2 and a 3 and 4, 2 and 3, a 4 and 1. Okay, when I put that with the ties, and make sure that you're looking at it with the C sharp, not C natural, it becomes 1, 2 and 2 and 3 and 1. Okay, listen to that again. 1, da 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 da, 1. Da 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 is how that rhythm's gonna go. Okay, now y'all don't actually have as many notes, so once you get to 23, it's actually the same as it was in the first part. So what I need you to do is at this point you need to go back and you need to go look at that first part for that rhythm. Okay, I'm only looking at this one because it's a little bit different. Okay, so let's find that in the music. One, two, three, four. Da, 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 da. So at that moment, what you're doing, unlike the first saxophones, is you are actually the melody and you're going along with the brass. Okay, so you can find that in the recording. Okay? All right, tenors. Let's take a look. Starting at 17. All right, so we went to 17 last week, mainly just because you had a bunch of whole notes at the beginning. So let's keep going this time. All right, so from 17, once without the ties. 1, 2, and a 3 and 4. 1, 2, and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay. So with the ties, if you need to go back and do that again, just rewind it and do it again. With the ties, 1, 2, and 2 and 3 and 1. Okay, and that's that rhythm. So then you get 2 measures of rest, and then we'll come over here. All right, now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do it once without the ties. And I'm actually going to try to go all the way down to here. Okay? All right, so from here, I'm going to try to do this backwards, so forgive me if I say a wrong number. Okay? 23, 3, 4, 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4, 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4, 1 and a 2, 4 and a 1, 2E, 3 and a 4. Okay, let's actually stop right there for right now before we get to this last section. So look at this measure. Okay, so everything up to here has kind of been the same thing. Okay, watch out for that half note. Then what happens is you get 4 and a 1, 2E, that's a 16th. So 2E, 3 and a 4. 2E, 3 and a 4. Okay? Then I'll start right there. 2E, 3 and a 4. 1E, 2, 3. Sorry. 1E and 2E. I'm sorry, I said the wrong syllables. 1E and 2, 3. 1E and 2, 3, 4E and. Okay, so there's a lot of moving in some weird places. You got to make absolutely sure that you know what you're doing. Okay? All right, so I'm going to try to do this. I might have to look at the sheet just a little bit just to make sure I'm doing it the right time. So just make sure you're following along with me. All right, so let's start at 17. Okay, 17. 1, 2 and 2 and 3 and 1. Then we get 2 measures of rest. 2, 2, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 3 and 1 and 4. Sorry, there's 4 and again 4 and 2E and 4, 1E. Let me do just that part again because that's going to be the tricky part. Okay, so I'll start here. Okay, this is looks like 28 maybe. 1 and 4 and a, 2 E and a, 1 E. Okay, it's a little weird, and it doesn't really go along with what you want to play with in the recording. Okay, so I'm gonna back up to about 16 and show you where this fits. So we're right about here. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Dot dee do. So one of the things you're going to have to really watch out for is you do not jump in with the brass. You've got to count and make sure you're an echo to them. Okay? So let me do that part one more time, and I'll try to do a little bit of a better job of having my finger in the right place. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong place. Four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bop it up. Bop da da, bop da da, bop da da, bop da da, ba da, ba da, ba da. So you hear how you're that echo after those. So it's going to take a little bit of time to try to get that together. Okay, so make sure you're doing it, listening to the recording, but finding your part. Okay, here's from the beginning. One. 1. 1. 1. 1 and 3 and 1, 2 and 4 and 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 4, 1, 2, and 3. Ba ba da, ba ba da, ba ba da, ba ba da, ba da. Okay, and that's where we're going to stop for today. All right, so take a look at that. All right, trumpets. Trumpets, we are going to take a look at 17, going through, finding some of these parts from 17 to about 35, which will pretty much be this opener for y'all. But it'll give us a chance to do some of these rhythms. Okay? All right, so at measure 17, I'm going to do this once without the ties. As I'm looking at the second and third parts, the rhythms throughout throughout all of this trumpets, the rhythms are all identical. Okay, so it's making sure that we're all moving at the same time. It's only your notes that are different. Okay, so I'm going to focus mainly on this first trumpet part for the rhythms, and then you can take a look at the notes. Okay? All right, so from 17, you get 1, 2, and a 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Okay? 1 and a 2, and, oh, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. 1, 2, and a 3, and 4, 2, and 3, up. Okay? So that's the one that's a little bit different. So let me do it with the ties. Okay? 1, 2, and 2, and 3, and 1. All right, listen to that again, and I'll just sing it. Okay, 3, 4, 1, da 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 da. Okay, so we'll go past these 2 measures of rest, and we'll come down to measure 23. Okay, so measure 23 is 1, 2, and 2, and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 2, and 1 and I will come back to that one in just a second. Okay, so you see all of these are exactly the same. Your goal in this is to make sure you see exactly when the beginning of each one of these notes are, and noticing that the beginning of each one of these is short. Okay, ba ba da, ba ba da, ba ba da, each time. Okay, all right. So let's just take a look here, and I'm gonna do this one very slow without the ties. So this would be 1 E and 2 a 3. 1 E and 2 a 3. Ba da 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 da. So when you put the ties back in, you get da 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 da. 1 E and a 3. 1 E and a 3. Okay, so when you put it together into this next part, you're going to get 1 E and a 3, 4 E and a 3, same thing, so it repeats. Okay, and you get 1 E and a 3, 1 E and 3 E and. Okay, so it's really kind of the same thing. The problem is, and you guys got to make sure you're watching, because the problem is other sections are doing it at different times. So you got to make sure you're counting, and it's supposed to sound very chaotic, but it's got to sound right. Okay. All right. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start it at about 17, and we're gonna look from 17 on. Okay. All right. This should be. Two, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One. Okay, so you can go back and do that again with the recording. The main thing is what I need you to realize as you're going through is these rests. Okay, you heard that another group comes jumping in and then you jump in after that. Okay, all right, let's take a look at the second and third parts and what about them is going to be a little bit different. Okay, there is really only one thing about it, besides the notes, obviously. Besides the notes, there's only one thing about it that's different, and that is right here. Okay? On the first part, they come in on the second beat of 23. For the seconds and the thirds, y'all actually start the melody here on this fourth beat. Okay, so we get 1 da 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 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 da 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 da, and then you join with them, and all the rhythms after that are the same. Okay, but it's making sure this right here leads us. Okay, don't let a 2 or a 3 make you think that your part is not important. It is super, 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 super important. Okay, so let me play just a little bit of that with the second and third part, just so you can hear that entrance. Okay. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3. One, two, three. Okay, so that's really, as long as you look at the rhythm of the other one, you should be fine. Just make sure that you check those couple of notes. Okay. All right, mellophones. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look here from about 17 and see if we can get down to maybe about here. Okay, so as we're taking a look here at 17, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count through these things without the ties, just so you can see when it is you're supposed to move. Okay, so very slowly. Here's 17, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. 4 and 1. 1 and 1, 2 and 4 and 1. 4 and 1. 4 and 1. And then that's going to change just a little bit. So you see, I did this part right here. I did with the ties because it's the same as the melody up here. Okay. All right. So let's take a look right here. This is where it changes. So it goes 4 and 1, 2E, 3 and 4. Okay. 4 and 1, 2E, 3 and 4. 2E, 3, 4 and 1. 2E and 3, 4E, 1, 3. Okay, so it's a lot of things there. Good news is it's only a couple of notes, but at the same time, it's a lot of stuff going on. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna kind of sing through from here, okay, very slowly. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, da da. Da da da, dee da, dee da, dee da, da dee da, da dee da, dee da, dee da. Okay, and you can see that the first and second part is all doing the same thing. It just splits, so it's the difference between, you know, some D flats versus some G flats. And remember, on mellophone, D flat is your first 2 fingers. Okay, same as C sharp, and the G flat, same as F sharp, middle finger. Okay, all right. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take the recording back to about 17, Okay. And then we're going to put in the ties. All right. So with the ties, this would be 1, da, 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 1, da, 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 da. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Ba ba da, ba ba da, 4. Ba da 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 da. Ba ba da ba da ba da ba da ba ba da 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 da. So it moves in a lot of weird ways. So I'm gonna put it back, the recording back at about 17, and we'll look through it that way. Okay. I'm sorry, I think that's about 7. One. Okay, so what I would implore you to do is to, rewind this back to that. Instead of me doing it a bunch of times, you can rewind it back and see how that works. And I'm sorry, I was leaning in a little bit, but that was to give you an emphasis of when you're starting. Okay? I'm about to run out of time on this one, so I'm going to post a second video for trombone, baritone, and tubas, so I don't run out of time.